right, I have a review for you today for Star Trek's Prime Directive by Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens. Now, this is one of those premier hardcover Star Trek novels that came out back in the 1990s. A little bit about Star Trek publishing real quick. There are lots of Star Trek books, lots of them, dating all the way back to right after the series got canceled. There are novelizations of movies. There are books that are spin-offs or continuations of all the various television series, whether it be the original series like this one, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. You can find novels for all of the shows. And the paperbacks tend to be of varying quality. Some of them are really good, some of them are pretty bad. So there's a wide gamut in Star Trek publishing. The hardcovers tend to be the better books. Not always the case, but they tend to be the more premier. And this is one of the ones that when you put in and you say top 10 Star Trek novels, you're usually going to see Prime Directive and Federation in those top 10 lists. And this is also by Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens. Although I took the review for this book down because somebody complained that I ruined the whole book. And they said, "You ruined the book, you gave away everything." So I said, all right, I'm going to remove the review so I don't spoil the book for somebody else. But but I do recommend this. This is good. If you're a fan of both Star Trek and The Next Generation, this is a good book. This is a great book. It's not flawless. It has its flaws. We'll get into it. But we'll talk about this book real quick and the setup of it. So as you can see, the title Prime Directive, that means we're going to be dealing with the non-interference policy that Starfleet has with societies that are not warp capable. Societies that are not part of the Federation, that don't have faster than light travel, where the Starfleet policy is to not interfere with their world. So what's happened here is that Captain James T. Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise have been charged with violating the Prime Directive, resulting in the destruction of planet Talos 4 and the death of over 2 billion alien life forms. Okay, sentient alien beings on Talon. And they're kind of described as like bird-like or lizard-like people. They're bipedal, they have arms and legs, but they're a very alien culture that is probably about 50 years away from, warp flight. And they're on the verge of nuclear war, okay? And so the book opens up, Talon 4 is destroyed, and the Enterprise crew has been disgraced. The only person still on board the Enterprise is Chief Engineer Scott. Scotty's still on board, but he is placed under the temporary command of Lieutenant Styles. Now, Lieutenant Styles here is we first saw Captain Styles in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, as the captain of the Excelsior. All right, so we get a young Lieutenant Styles in this book. And I think that the chapters that deal with Scotty interacting with Lieutenant Styles, they don't like each other. They're great. I love everything that Scotty does in this book. If you are a fan of Scotty, you're going to love him here. The other thing is that he's the only one that's still on board because he wasn't on the bridge when the disaster happens. So he wasn't bounced out of the service. He's not deemed responsible. But Kirk has retired in disgrace. Uhura is being held in the brig at a starbase. Okay, McCoy has resigned, and Sulu and Chekhov have both resigned in disgrace as well. And they're all known as like the destroyers of this planet. They're known as killers, murderers, and they have to clear their name. So the first section of the book is dealing with them in their various places where they're at, kind of spread out. I liked all this stuff with Scotty. I liked the Captain Kirk chapters where he's talking to this Captain Devereaux is her name. And he's traveling on a freighter to try to get to Talon. We have, McCoy and Uhura interacting with each other at this starbase. And so we have a bit of, we got to get the gang back together again type thing, and they're all gonna, travel to Talon by various means. I liked it all, except for the Sulu and Chekhov stuff I found a bit tedious, and I didn't quite understand why they didn't just charter a ship. It seemed like a really convoluted way to get there. So the Sulu and Chekhov chapters keep this from being like a perfect book. I don't like the chapters with them. Luckily, there's not a whole lot, but when I read those chapters, like, okay, come on, I got to get through this. This is kind of lame. So I could get back to the quote-unquote good stuff. Everything with Kirk, I loved. Everything with Scotty, I loved. I loved this chapters with Spock. This was a really, really good Star Trek book. The second section of the book, we finally get like kind of Kirk telling the backstory of what happened on Talos 4, or Talon 4. Talon 4? Talon 4. Keep on calling it Talos. Talon 4. All right? Still a mystery that has to be resolved. And, the Enterprise is, like I said, dead in space, pretty much. The warp engines have been destroyed. So we're trying to figure out what happened to the Enterprise, what really went down on this planet, and who's really responsible for the destruction of this whole world and the death of 2 billion life forms. So if you're thinking, because I went into this, here's one of my concerns going into this book, was thinking, okay, they're probably just going to get out of this by utilizing the slingshot maneuver to go around the sun and time travel back and undo the disaster before it happened. They don't do that here. And frankly, that would have been a cop-out. I'm glad they didn't do it. They actually have to go through this and figure out what went wrong. And to resolve it, through teamwork. And it was really good. I really thought that this was well done. I think that this couple, they know the characters. They really captured their voices. There's a few drawbacks to it, but as far as Star Trek books go, this is worthy of its status. And I'd probably place this in at least the top 5 Star Trek books that I've ever read. It's right up there. It's top tier. Like, if you're gonna read a Star Trek book, this is one that I can fully recommend to you and say, read this one. If you're a fan of the original series, this is taking place at the end of the 5-year mission. This is in year 5. And this could have been, I think that if they would have done like another Kelvin timeline movie, with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto and everybody, and they brought them back, like, this is what they should do. If they do another Kelvin timeline movie, they should do this. I think it's worthy. It's good enough to be a movie. It's movie quality. Obviously with a few tweaks, but it's top tier. So yeah, I got no complaints in this. This is a really good Star Trek book. So for all you Trekkers out there, check this one out. And if you're not a Trekkie, then, why would you read it? It's not for you. All right. Thanks for watching. Hey, have a wonderful day.